What's up, everybody? My name is Doug, and this is Living the Dream. Welcome. It's been a wild ride. When did we start this journey? Got to be 2018. Daniel Cummings, what's up, dude? Thanks for coming out. What's up, Sin? Liz Costa, impressive 8080. Nate Fleming in the house as usual. Daisy's Agility Journey. Heidi Kaleopa. Hokas one. Deja Tevez. How you guys doing? Today is July 18th, 2024. Adam Rogers, my man. What's up, dude? I got your text. I was already preparing. Of course, my mom hit me up. Said, yo, I just got a notification. There was a verdict coming. It was July 16th, 2020. Exactly 4 years and 2 days ago. Yes, Doug in the building. What's up, SK? We're here. It took 4 years, y'all. Tasha Man, 35. Aloha, my friend. Deja, I'm telling you, it don't look good. It don't look good. But I'm looking back. This was it. This is where it all started. That's the video. 4 years and 2 days ago today. From the beginning, when Mike Miske and 10 others were arrested in the raids in Hawaii. Who would have thought? 4 years. Jury is convening as we speak. And Hawaii News Now is focusing on the Republican National Convention. At least KTV posted about it. Miliana McNeil, aloha. Thanks for coming out. Here it is, y'all. Mike Miske found guilty of murder and racketeering 2 minutes ago. 2 minutes ago. KITV News reports after 6 months of trial, a jury has convicted accused crime boss Michael Miske of orchestrating the murder of his son's best friend, Jonathan Frazier. The jury has reached a verdict in the trial of accused Honolulu crime boss Mike Miske. He is being accused of being the mastermind behind the alleged kidnapping and murder of Jonathan Frazier, and as of 2 minutes ago, he was convicted, found guilty of murder and racketeering. You heard it here first, y'all. 4 years to the day. Well, in 2 days. You guys. I didn't think it was looking good. I'm not going to lie. I'm not going to lie. It did not look good. Alexander the Great. Bruce Wayne, what's up? Alexander the Great. Mike Miske found guilty. What you think of that? Found guilty of racketeering and murder. He won't get sentenced. Adam, he won't get sentenced yet. Sentencing will be at a later time. All we know is as of right now, Mike Miske was found guilty of racketeering and murder. I don't have the details yet. But as of right now, no. Bruce Wayne, they cannot offer him a deal. Deal's off the table. That came and went. Came and went. That's wild. Can't even believe it. I'm shocked. It wasn't looking good. I didn't think. Here's the thing. The prosecution took 6 months. In those 6 months, there were things that they didn't even mention that we know he did, that were documented, that they didn't bring up. I was worried that there were some shenanigans because they didn't bring those things up. And then, what's up, Aaron? Aaron Kawada in the house. Thanks for coming through. And then the defense took like 6 days. And so I'm thinking, yo, maybe in 6 days, maybe the prosecution was so weak that the defense just needed to cast a little bit of doubt, and they think they did that. So I was getting really worried. And then it's only been a week of deliberation. I mean, not even. They really started Monday. It says right here. How long did it take? I think they started on Monday. But they did it. They made it happen. Mike Miske. Laura, what's up? Thanks for coming through. Mike Miske found guilty. What you think of that? Here's a picture of Mike Miske. And then that's his son, Caleb. You see John Stansel. You see Jason Yokoyama. 5 to 10 with possibility of early parole. Dude, I have seen wilder things in Hawaii. But here's the thing. Take this into consideration. Your boy, Sam Kapoy, took 18. Just flying some meth to Maui. You see, this is where things get slippery. Because Sometimes you got dudes who are selling drugs who catch decades because they didn't want to cooperate. And then sometimes you got pedophiles who get 8 years. So Mike Miske was found guilty of 2 things: racketeering and murder. There won't be any death penalty in this. Bruce Wayne says, bro, I remember way back when Jonathan Frazier's family was posting on Stolen Stuff Hawaii looking for Johnny. Brenda Moniz, about time. You're right about that. 4 years. Now, what do I think were the biggest factors in this case? People flipping. You know how the feds work. Feds are scary. Feds are scary. They start talking, hey, oh yeah, I know you only filed those papers. I know Mike just told you to fill out this form and file it for him. But that makes you a part of this racketeering conspiracy, which means you facing 30 to life. And the girl's like, wait a minute. All I did was fill out that form. I did what he told me to do. He's my boss. And then I filed this paperwork. But once you get tied into that racketeering conspiracy, it's Pauhana. Cam T says, God is good and the system works. Praise God, baby. God is good all the time. And the system worked this time. Nate Fleming gave a shout out to Daniel Cummings. Bruce Wayne says, Doug, I was watching your Miske vids again these last 2 days. Pretty crazy. I hear the verdict on your channel too. I know, it's crazy. I'm not going to lie. I thought it was going to take a while. I almost didn't go live so early. They said they were coming back to court at 3:30 Hawaii time, which is 9:30 Eastern time. But I'm like, you know what? Just in case, I'm going to go hang out with everybody a little bit and then see what happens. Adam Rogers. Thanks, bro. Thanks for the super chat, my man. Love you, dude. It's the big homie. It's like day one. Me and Adam, we go back. What? The first thing we did was we hiked. What did we hike? Remember we popped out behind the golf course? That was like 2007, 2008. Thanks, bro. Lay said, if the feds didn't get involved, I think it wouldn't have ended like this. I was worried to get off. What kind of time is he looking at? He's looking at life. Yeah, because, listen, we got Daniel Cummings hanging out while he's driving. You got to pay attention, my man. That's all right. The policeman that would pull you over is watching the live stream too. So he's facing murder, racketeering. He's looking at life on both. Easy 3, 808. Aloha. It has been a minute. Adam, you remember what hike that was? Avery sniffing. What's up? Yeah, Mike Miske found guilty on murder and conspiracy, racketeering conspiracy. It finally happened. Go figure. So they're probably going to announce, I'd say they give them probably 3 to 6 weeks before they announce what his sentence is going to be. Alexander Great said, is it confirmed that Miske was dating Catherine Killahaw, or is that just a rumor? That will never be proven. Who knows? I don't want to say never. I have heard that people were seeing her around the courthouse. So I assumed she was testifying. But it might have been proffer statements. You know what I mean? A proffer statement, you guys, is when someone testifies with an agreement that they're not going to get in trouble for the things that they say. And a lot of people do the proffer statements. Cam says KK was for everybody. She was in the streets. That's for sure. She was snorting coke off the desk of Chief Killahaw. Now, for those of you in my Patreon, we went through the mailbox conspiracy over like 18 weeks, right? We tore that book apart. Nobody has delved into that book or that story more than we have. And you guys know the wild stuff that was happening. But for those of you who don't, this dude, my chief, my whole career, this dude signed my graduation certificate, gave me my badge, gave me my award. I ran 50 miles with that dude. Every week, we'd run, I don't know how many miles we'd run every week in academy. And he would run with us. He didn't run with us all the time. The major did. I'd work out with him in the gym. Like, that's the chief. His wife's snorting coke off his desk. Probably forcing him to say the things he was saying. And because he was loyal. And he realized he was going to get in trouble. This dude, after framing her uncle for stealing a mailbox, just so he would be discredited from testifying against her for stealing $1 million from her grandma. He frames Gerard and then realizes he's about to get caught. And then while he's in court, goes to testify, he breaks procedural rules. You're not allowed to talk about alleged or confirmed criminal records of the person that you were testifying against. He introduced that from the stand, knowing full well it was going to get thrown out. In the middle of court, he's like, yeah, it's because this guy, he already broke into somebody's house. And he got thrown out. And everyone's like, yo, why would he do that? He knows better. He's a police chief. Well, he was doing it so he wouldn't have to testify because he knew he was going to perjure himself and he knew that they were onto him. It's just wild. And then they start looking into it. They send it to the feds. Feds are like, yo, this is crazy. It was literally a setup. You guys, they sent a dude who drove a car just like Gerard Puana to go fake steal the mailbox, get rid of it, and then ID'd him in the car. In the video, we got footage that just happens to be focused right on his car, but it's just far enough away that you can't really tell. But you had officers who were like, yo, that's the car. That's the car that he drives. But he didn't drive that car. It wasn't even close. He had office that just did lazy police work and maybe lied. This dude went to jail. Never stole a single thing. That was family. She did that to her family, her uncle. And now look, Louis Kealoha, locked up, I think, in Arizona. And then you got this case. Look at me. And if I'm not mistaken, Cowboy's locked up with Sam. Now remember, they threw out the Cowboy case. They threw out the case for Cowboy, probably because of all the stuff he's going through right now. And they said there wasn't enough to tie Mike to the attempted murder when they tried to shoot Cowboy on the set of Jurassic Park up in Coolo Ranch. So that's a bummer. That is a bummer. Bruce Wayne said, wow, I didn't even know Louis Kealoha. He's in prison, bro. Bruce, this is going to be a movie. You watch. I've been saying it for years. It's going to be a movie. It's wild. But we will never confirm the relationship between Mike Miske and Catherine Kealoha. However, I need you guys to remember, these are facts, that Mike Miske got the cell phone number of Jared Spiker. And Catherine Kealoha called Jared Spiker. These are facts. I want you to think about that. I don't know if we're going to get all the details from this trial. For some reason, this court was locked up. We didn't get nothing, which is sketchy to me. It's kind of like this Ghislaine Maxwell thing where she's going to jail for trafficking kids to people that we don't know about. It's just crazy to me. Yeah, they're on the mainland, Lay. So we don't really know the details, but let me remind you, as a matter of fact, because I was working that night, that Mike Miske called Jared Spiker and they recorded that conversation. And then your boy Al Lee, my favorite sergeant in the world, till the day I die, that dude was that was a hard-working sergeant. Took care of his boys. He worked hard. He never just parked in some alley behind Roxa and let everybody else work. No, he'd park. He'd get out. He'd do work. He'd back everybody up. He was out there. This dude loses his job. He was going through some drama with the chief. Louis Kealoha was on feeling some type of way about him, and I couldn't understand why. Why were they hating on Ali? He was the best sergeant. Like, the department ran on an email chain that Ali used to keep. We used to be on this email chain with Ali where we would just share information on local crumbs. We'd share information on the hot spots and the crimes. And this is what I learned last night. Yo, look who I ran into. It was because of Ali. Ali, he was holding down the department in terms of intelligence. When Hell's Angels first got their chapter in Hawaii, we were on it. We knew already. Why? Because Ali and some of the dudes that work in that area were communicating. It was the only way that we were all learning about the criminal enterprise in our districts. And that was because Ali, he was the best doing work, bringing in real criminals. And then all of a sudden they started changing these rules just to like make Ali mad. And I remember finding out I couldn't arrest a dude for warrants if it was in the park after dark, because the warrant said you could only serve it between the hours of 8 a.m. and 10 p.m. at a house. And the chief was like, negative, because you can only serve between 8 a.m. and 10 p.m. at a house and the park is closed and not open to the public. It's technically a private property, which it isn't. It's city property. And so we couldn't arrest dudes in the park with warrants. So we would just write them a ticket and then follow them out of the park as they walked out of the park. And once they left the park and got onto the public sidewalk, we'd have to arrest them there. Can you imagine? You know you're about to arrest this guy. but you can't arrest him because you're in a park. Just weird rules they were putting on stuff. And it was all coming down that they were cracking on Ali. I remember Ali sending the thing out. He sent out an email saying, "Yo, you guys, they're cracking down on this for some reason. They don't want you arresting people in the park." It's just because Ali was arresting people in the park. Well, Ali was like, "Screw it. I'm going to do it anyway because it's a warrant." It's literally, you don't have a choice. A police officer does not have a choice. According to the law, he can be held in contempt of court if he runs into a dude on a traffic stop where there's a warrant, because the warrant says the officer is instructed and commanded by the court to take this person into custody so they can see a judge. So Ali was like, "Yo, the judge on this warrant says that I'm obligated, I'm commanded by the judge to arrest." But the chief was fighting Ali, and I remember thinking, whoa, like, why would you pick a fight with Ali? I mean, Ali's going to lose. He's not the chief. But still, of all the dudes, there are plenty of bolos out there. Why are you going to do this to Ali? Of all people. I just remember it blew my mind. Then I found out all the drama behind the scenes with Ali. Then I found out Catherine Kealoha was reaching out trying to get everybody to squash this Mike Miske stuff. Yo, Catherine Kealoha, on Mike Miske's behalf, tried to get everybody to squash the Miske stuff. "Leave him alone. He's working with us," she said. How does Mike Miske get Jared Spiker's number? Okay, so listen, this isn't a crazy jump to make, right? You got Jared Spiker, who's a policeman. Nobody's got that cell phone number but other policemen, and no policemen are giving up a policeman's phone number, right? It's not going to happen. You got Catherine Kealoha, who's the prosecuting attorney, essentially a boss of ours. She's the one that tries all the cases of all the people that we arrest. She calls him on his phone, and so does Mike Miske? Come on now. Come on now. Listen, that's not I'm not making a big leap here. And then Catherine Kealoha tells Spiker to lay off of, it was either Spiker or Ali, to lay off Mike Miske. He's working for us. That's the connection. We didn't make that up. So you got Catherine Kealoha brings up Mike Miske out of nowhere. You got Mike Miske that gets Spiker's number and calls him and threatens him. This isn't a big leap. Civil suits up next, Cam says. Yeah, but they're not going to get nothing. They're not going to get anything. Mike's got nothing. They already took everything. They may put him, when he's in prison, he has to pay back, whatever. He'll make $60 a week stamping out, license plates or whatever. What's up, Rose? Rose says, "Have you heard any info about Mike having relations with his son's baby's mama?" I have. Sounds like he knew how to manipulate women just as much as the goons. Yeah. Listen, it ain't hard to manipulate when you rich and powerful. It's the powerful, rich dude on the block. He had more homes than you guys realize. He had more homes and boats than you realize. They took 3. Then he was paying for he was paying for Delia's apartment. And had Delia reach out to Ashley and John. They set him up. They set that boy up. I didn't get into it in my one video. I'll do another video where we'll break down the other parts. But Mike Miske set that boy up. He got him to live in a spot that he paid for, so he wouldn't suspect. And then set up Ashley to be out of the house. Mike sent Delia to take Ashley out to get her nails done. She's going to a wedding. You know, they were going to have a spa day. John was worried about the way he looked because he had scars on his face. He hated his face after the accident. He never like go to the wedding. And while she was out at the spa, they came and took John. If I had to guess, they got him out of the house, told him, hey, we got some work for you. We need you to do something for us. And then they got him to get in the car with them, or actually get in his own car, drive down Kuli'o'o. Remember, there's in Hawaii Kai. He gets in his car, drives down to Kuli'o'o, parks the car in Kuli'o'o. I'll tell you where he parked the car. Because it was right next to my house. All right, you guys see this? This Kuli'o'o Road, right here. John's car was parked right here. See that? So they drove from Hawaii Kai. They parked John's car right on Summer. It was either on Summer, on Kuli'o'o, or Paioki. Forget which one. And they found his car abandoned. And then, you know, Mike's got houses all over here in Hawaii Kai. So they had him drive over here. Probably told him they had a job for him to do, whatever. And then, yeah, Rose, to answer your question, I heard that there is a photo floating around of Mike and Delia after Caleb died. And word on the street was that Caleb found out some stuff about Delia and Mike. I don't know if that's true. But that he had found out some stuff and was mad and was racing over to Mike. So, but I don't know. That's all hearsay. I don't think we'll ever find out unless someone finds that photo. So, we won't know. Pobo Jangles. What's the point if they're just going to be set free? Yeah, I know. G of the 808. Which video do you talk about Miske and Spiker? Dude, I'm sorry. I wish I knew. But the first Miske video, I'll show you. I'll put a link in the chat. This is the initial video. That video I just put in the chat. So John's video was here in Kuli'o'o, and then, or video, his car was here in Kuli'o'o, and then he disappeared. Nobody ever seen him. Rose said, Mike feel pretty and young again. I mean, when you get money and power and you both share in grief, there's no doubt Delia loved him. From all accounts, everybody I talked to said Caleb was a good dude. But here's the thing. Here's the thing we're not going to find out more about. This bugs me. We know Mike was buying jobs on the stevedores. We know it. And we know there's dudes that went down for selling those jobs. But it goes bigger than that. Ain't just one dude that decides to give you a job at the dock. It's got to go through other people. They said, did Delia face any charges for involvement or did she flip? I might have missed this. Is the news. Too much happened. So Delia is on the hook for racketeering. She flipped, so she'll get a deal. Powajenko says, what's the time span of this happening? 2016? What? 2015? If you watch my Rolly video on the Rolex, it'll tell you when. Alexander says, Ashley Wong testified that Miske told her he had gone to see the psychic who told him Frazier was still alive. Well, yeah. Ashley went and saw a really famous psychic. Actually, it was the psychic that worked on that. Who was the missing girl? Diane Suzuki. The same psychic from the Diane Suzuki murder. Remember the one who said that Diane was still alive or she was suffering? I forget what it was. That psychic is the one that reached out to Ashley and said whatever he said or whatever she said. I don't remember what she told her. Rose says, John owed my ex money when he went missing. Poor kid wasn't the same after the accident, or I think mentally he would have been more alert. Yeah, he wasn't the same. And he wasn't confident. His face all busted up. And he wasn't doing well. He didn't feel like a winner. You know what I mean? He was trying to get a spot. They were pregnant. He was trying to get a job. You know what I mean? His priorities are changing. And he lost his best friend. Think about you losing your best friend. You're welcome, G. Thanks for coming through. Rose says, thank God I took my daughter and moved to Arizona when I did. The island's corrupt, has no room for people to grow. Yeah, man, it's tough in Hawaii right now. This is a big shakeup. So this will help, but you got tons of people that are still trying to keep it under wraps. There's more corruption than this. And some of it is not what you'd think of as corruption. Some of it is just Uncle so-and-so taking care of nephew. You know? But then every 2 or 3 of those, there's a dude who's doing it for money. He's not doing it for cousin. He's not doing it for nephew. And that's still corruption. It's still nepotism. It's still unfair. And it'd be different if it was like a program. If there's like a Kamehameha program where only Hawaiians got those jobs or whatever. That'd be a different setup. This is just anybody who could pay. So I don't care if there's Hawaiian or not. If they're selling the jobs, right? You got a rich haole, you got a rich Japanese guy. It was about money. So these people were selling their culture. And then there's this twisted empathy where you're like, you see how local people have it. Relegated to the housing and to the west side. virtually removed from downtown. Priced out of paradise. And you see it and you're like, yo, they're doing what they got to do. But when you realize that there's local people behind that exploitation, when you realize the mob-related activity between the people who own the hotels in Hawaii and Las Vegas mobsters, I'm talking people that own the West Side. I'm talking Kapolei. People that own Waikiki, own pieces of Las Vegas with mobsters. Still, today, people building in Hawaii today. I'm talking politicians still alive. Hawaii senators, congressmen, House members. It don't stop. I'm hoping that this shakes up some things a little bit. Impressive 8080 says, news said net part of the trial for forfeiture of property. Yeah, I don't know. Rose says, funny how weak they all are when it hits the fan. They all talked, every one of them. I had people reach out to me, says, bro, I didn't talk, or my cousin or my sister didn't talk. She not snitching. But I'm like, yo, the news is saying she made a deal. And I got dudes coming from my head because I said that they were snitching, but that's what it is. Hey, don't do the crime. Turn on your boys so that you get lighter time and then say you never turn on your boys. I'm just saying you can't have it both ways. You know, I think I'd rather have you snitch and not go to jail the rest of your life for something stupid. But think about those boys that beat up Johnny. Think about that. Think about those grown men who beat up that boy. Where are they? How come that wasn't brought up? They chased him down, knocked his tooth out, stole his chain. It was documented in a police report. They chased those girls. That wasn't brought up. And there's so much more that wasn't brought up. Mike Miske reached out to the family after Johnny went missing. Told them, you guys better stop looking. None of that stuff came out in court. As far as I know. Maybe it did. So is there more to come? I hope so. There's 10 more stories out of this. There's 10 more people involved than what we think. Did Cowboy tell us what happened to John? Well, we know that Cowboy said he got offered money. I think it was 10 grand to kill John. And he said he didn't take it, which is why they went trying to kill him at Koloa. And at 808, Hawaii's all monopolies. It's all who you know, not what you know. I mean, that's hard to avoid when you're in an island culture. You know, everybody knows everybody. For people to deny that that's real is crazy. Listen, I want to take care of my son, right? Because he's my son. Tell me you're not going to ride or die for your wife or your son or your nephew. That's human nature. That's a good family, if you ask me. But because of that, there has to be accountability. I don't think there's anybody that would act like they wouldn't do the same thing. So because of it, you got to have accountability, you know? Alexander says Jacob Smith and Norma Cow were scary looking dudes. Glad I was not. Yeah. Jake Smith was a fighter. He was a good fighter by all accounts. He was the enforcer. And Norman Akau, he obviously wasn't a good dude. You know, and then there's this duality, right? You can have someone who's like a good husband, a good father, a good son, but is going out and beating dudes up for money. For Mike Miske to have reign around the island, or setting dudes up to get murdered. Isn't that crazy? We all got a deep dark side. And you either fight it every day and suppress it, and it becomes weaker and weaker as you get older and more mature, and then you have momentum and you have character and integrity. Right? When you're younger, it's Wild West. It's hard to fight those things. That's why you make stupid moves. That's why men are idiots when they're young. That means a dude under 25, that's the worst person I ever been in my life, was under 25. I'm thinking about me. As you get older, you suppress that, and it becomes weaker, and that draw gets farther and farther away, and you build this momentum by being a good dude, a good man, a good woman. And then eventually you realize it's not worth throwing all this away. Why don't I just be honest? Why don't I just work hard? Why don't I be true to my wife? Be there for my kids? But some people don't make that decision. Some people do both. Probably a sociopath, right? When you can't really feel the way humans are supposed to feel. You just know how they're supposed to feel, so you force yourself to act like you feel that way. Act like you have empathy. You don't have empathy. You say the words you think a normal, loving human being would say, but you don't really feel that pain for somebody. And that's, you got to be a sociopath to kill somebody. Think about it. For you to hurt somebody else that didn't do anything to you, and they're screaming no and they're crying, and you do it, you got to be a sociopath at the very least. You can't feel what they feel. Alex says, Louis Keloha still receives his retirement pension while in prison. $10,000 a month in taxpayer money. Yeah, I don't know what happened with that. Remember, that's a whole conspiracy there. Yo, they gave him that money when they weren't supposed to. They secretly kicked people out of the session and voted on that. See what I'm saying? That's crazy. Cam, they do, except for a federal court is different. So if this was, Hawaii Circuit Court, then we could do that. But in federal, Rose, yeah, Cowboy said a lot of stuff. I don't remember what was what. There were rumors that one boy that was killed in prison, who said he saw John at that house in Kalihi, all beat up, tied to a chair. And then that boy got murdered in prison just 2 years ago. Something like that. His mom reached out and asked me not to make a video on it, so I didn't. I was gonna. But occasionally some people would reach out to me in the family and say, hey, can you be careful about this or not say this or whatever. And so out of respect, I didn't. So I didn't make a video about what people said happened to John. And I'm kind of glad I didn't, because we don't know. Hi, Kaleo Rose. Mahalos for joining. Bruce said, dang, just remember that OCCC inmate James Boring Solace. That's him. Sorry, Bruce. I don't know if you beat me to that. I wasn't reading all the comments. Poe Django says, you feel like we're all animals at the end of the day? You know what? I think that the heart of man is wicked. From birth. And I think that if you resist it, you let that compassionate, loving side of you that we have in us. Because I think we're made in the image of God. But we have an evil spirit. And we turn that over. And you feed the love and the giving and the kindness, the faithfulness. You feed that part of you, and you push down or resist the selfishness and the greed. That it gets easier, you build momentum. And I think some people, some people grow up in a bad home. Some people grow up being abused. And they don't have that. They don't have a chance to feed the good parts of them. They're just trying to survive. And then others, they just decide to do that. And we don't know why they were different. Okay, Christina says from HNN just a few minutes ago. What we got? Okay. It says, crime boss Mike Miske guilty on 13 counts after a lengthy trial, including murder and kidnapping. I'm going to read this to you guys. A federal jury found Mike Miske guilty Thursday of more than a dozen charges, including murder as a part of the sprawling criminal enterprise case against him. Miske was also found guilty of conspiracy to commit murder for hire, kidnapping, attempted murder, obstruction of justice, and conspiracy to use a chemical weapon. That's the Ginza nightclub. In all, the jurors who started their deliberations last Friday delivered guilty verdicts on 13 charges and not guilty verdicts on 3 counts. With Miske guilty, they will move to another portion of the trial considering forfeiture of Miske's property, including homes and cars. The jury sat through 6 months of arguments from prosecutors and defense attorneys, listened to nearly 300 witnesses, and considered thousands of exhibits. On Thursday, the jury expressed confusion over how to handle some of the charges, asking the judge in the case to clarify how crimes that Mike Miske did not know about but was still a part of in the criminal enterprise should be handled, and the jury was referred back to their instructions. Mike Kennedy, his attorney, argued that he was a successful businessman who didn't need money from crime. He also argued the government was out to get him because of his reputation, ignoring contrary evidence along the way. It wasn't mustard gas. It was a chemical used. It was one of the additives that they use for fumigating. Because, he owned Kama'aina Termite and Pest Control. So, yeah, that's it. Cam says, after watching another RICO trial, I was worried they were going to let him go. Listen, it's not easy to get a RICO trial. It's easier to get a RICO trial on criminals that are really good at what they do, and people are locked down, airtight, nobody snitching. Like the mafia. They go RICO because it's easier than trying to get them on murder because nobody's going to talk. But in this case, everybody flipped. So We out here. Mike Miske guilty. So we'll see how long it lasts before they give him his sentence. But it happened. And it's been a wild ride. How quickly things change. You can be doing everything right. Top of your game. You could be at grand openings for your nightclub. I want you guys to realize in this photo right here, he was murdering dudes. But the people on the left and on the right, they probably didn't know that. They might have. Yeah, Pobo, all he did was he had a chick run up in Ginza, which was a competitor from M, and she had the stuff in a solo cup. She had them in a plastic cup. And she just poured it out on the floor in the middle of the nightclub. The music's going, everybody's in the club, and anybody who's ever been to Ginza know it's popping. It's so many people in Ginza, there's no room to move. The street's full, the cars are full. All the valet are working, running left, running right. They take up the whole street. There's rooftops. Everybody's out on the rooftops. We had shootings at Ginza. It was not irregular to get a shooting at Ginza. Some dude would pop off, whether he's shooting in the air or shooting at people. We had stabbings. Security was crazy. And so you wouldn't know. So this chick gets let in. She walks up she got a ride, first of all, from one of Miske's goons. I think it was John Stansel. Could have been Carlana Freitas. But somebody went and picked her up. They went to another car where they had the chemicals. I think they went over to some house. She stayed in the car. He got like a gallon of some chemical. And then they to the actual nightclub Ginza, poured the stuff in the car. And he was doing it because they were a competitor. He was doing it because he wanted his nightclub to do better. But everybody knew about M Nightclub. M Nightclub was not a great place to be. The bouncers were not friendly. You're going to get lumped up. You're going to catch cracks if you act up, even if you look at somebody wrong. The night that I saw John Fraser in Waikiki, I didn't know it was John Fraser. I just met up with a friend who introduced me to somebody who was with them. That night, they went to M Nightclub. And Mike was intimidating them. Mike was flexing on John. And one of the dudes that was with him. Trying to flex. And had his bouncers run up on him. Try to check him. They were thugs. Just wannabe thugs. Just bullies. I'm glad they're off the street. Yeah, if you've been to M, you knew how it was. It was sketch. It was a crazy location, too. But I can't tell you how many times. I remember, I'll never forget this. This one dude. Tell me if anybody was there. This one dude got his ear bit off during a fight. And he was roid raging. He was there for Paradise Cup, and he was obviously on anabolics. He was like massive, huge, no neck, just big dude, and he was raging and he was screaming, and he had his ear in his cup. Any POs in the chat, you're not going to say who you are. If anyone was there that night, you remember. Dude had an ear in his cup. I'm pretty sure it was his ear. It wasn't his nose. Wasn't his tongue. Wasn't fingers. I think it was his ear. Had his ear in a cup of ice, and he's trying to fight dudes. And I don't remember how he lost the ear, but it was in his cup. I just remember wilding out. I could not believe that this guy's ear was in a cup, and he didn't want to go into the ambulance. He was roid raging. He couldn't even feel the pain. I mean, those are the stories at M. Hey, I was outside M nightclub once. A dude ran up to me, bloody from head to toe, blood all over his head, all over his shirt, all over his pants, all over his shoes, blood everywhere, like he jumped in a pool of blood. He had been stabbed like 30 times. And was like, yo, I just been stabbed. Can you help me? I was at M because there was a fight inside that he wasn't related to. I said, did you just get beat up at the club? He said, no, I just got stabbed in my car. So I was there waiting outside the ambulance for the victim of the fight at the nightclub. And this dude runs up stabbed 30 times. Like, M was wild. There's this time of night at HBD. It's called bar closures. When you work first watch, you start at 10. You work till 6. Well, when you were doing 5/8. Bar closures was at 2. And so from 2 to 4 o'clock, because there were some after hour clubs, but basically from 1 to 5, I'd say, bar closures. In Waikiki and in town, that's when the bars close and everybody hits the streets drunk. That's when everybody starts fighting. That's when soldiers pick up mahus and what's it, Fusion? What was that place called? Frick, I forget the place on Kuhio. That's where the soldiers fighting the local boys. We got called to Kuhio and not Aloha, Seaside. And I swear the call on the radio was 30 to 50 males fighting in the street. And then the motorman shows up, goes on the radio. He said, we got like 30 Samoans fighting 30 Popola guys. And it was obviously soldiers fighting bouncers. And it's just wild. So it's crazy at night. Well, in town, when you work District 1, bar closure meant M nightclub. There were other bars, but it didn't pop off like that. Ginza was another one, but it was always going off at M. M was supposed to be the nicer, flashier nightclub. Like if you drove a Lambo, you're probably going to M. You're not going to Ginza. But like average dudes went to Ginza. Rose says you were undercover during all this, right? When you say you meet people as undercover? No. I was undercover in 2013 and 2014. So just before John went missing. When I met John and actually Caleb, was it Caleb? I forget who he was with. Yeah, he was with Caleb. I think he was with Caleb. So when I met him, I was already I finished with my undercover. So I was wearing BDUs. I was wearing like the blue police uniform. I was riding an ATV or maybe a bike that night because it was parade in Waikiki. So I wasn't undercover when I met them. And I was on patrol when Mike Miske dug out from Spiker Ali. And then I never forget going to a case. It was like some fight or something. And a bunch of officers came out and Spiker and them were there. And they're like, bro, you're not going to believe what happened. And then everybody was talking like, yo, Mike Miske dug out from Catherine K. Aloha. And I was like, who's Mike Miske? And somebody gives me the rundown. Yo, this is who Mike Miske is. This is the crimes he's behind. Blah, 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 blah. They told me Catherine Kealoha made a phone call. There's rumors that they were together. And I was like, Catherine Kealoha? Like Chief Kealoha's wife? Like the deputy prosecuting attorney? She's banging some criminal? I remember just being like, this is wild. It can't be real. And then I heard the audio of what Mike Miske said. And I just can't believe. I was like, how does he get your number? Who does Mike know to get a policeman's number? I was so worried about that I never even gave the department my real address. When I lived on Rose Street, it was too hard to find my house. So I gave them that address. But you know how Rose Street is like all these Filipino mansions next to each other. There's back alleys that aren't city and county. They're private. You couldn't really get to my spot. One day, my beat partner Richie was sent to my house because I slept. I thought I was off that day, but I was scheduled to work. And when a policeman doesn't show up, they send somebody to come get you. So it's 6:30 a.m. The shift is at 6. I'm sleeping. I got babies. All of a sudden I hear, Doug, Doug. It's like a loud whisper. You know how people can yell but whisper? It's like, Doug, Doug. And I'm like, it's hot. I know my air conditioning, so I can hear it. It's 6:30, so it's quiet. A couple roosters, and then Doug. And then a rooster, and then Doug. This Filipino dude, yoked. Good dude. So I go to my window. I'm like, Richie? He's like, where you at? He can't see me because I'm behind my screen in my window. And there's like a million windows everywhere with all these apartments. So I come out. I said, yo, what's wrong? He said, yo, you're supposed to be at work. I said, I thought it was my day off. He said, no, they sent me to you. I was like, shoot, I'll call Sergeant. So it was hard to find my house in Kalihi. So when I moved, I never updated my address. And I moved in 2015. I was worried. I didn't want people, as a policeman, you don't want people to know where you live. And I'm in the hood. But when I moved out to Kahaluu. And it was too hard to find my spot in Kahaluu because I lived in the mountains. So, and I didn't have a marked car, nothing. I never drove around in my uniform. And I wouldn't tell people. Because I'm thinking, if Miske and these guys getting a hold of people's phone numbers and addresses. And that's when I found out I lived on the property with a dude who was an organized crime figure in Honolulu for decades. Whose brother was the West Side Killer in Kauai. Who he didn't get convicted. And he had a brother who was a detective in Kauai. And this dude was involved like way back. I'm talking Larry Mayhew's young days. And I never updated my address. I just remember thinking, dude, this is getting wild. I moved out of that house because I realized I lived on the property of an organized crime figure who had a murderer for a son. And we caught him looking in my windows. I didn't know who he was. My wife called me one night. I just finished working out. I'm at the station and she's freaking out. Somebody's looking in my window. Somebody's looking in my window. Baby, get home. I had 2 babies, maybe 3 babies at the time. And I couldn't get there in time. So I was going to make it over there. But I called dispatch and I'm like, yo, send units to my house. I got a dude looking at my window. My wife's by herself. That's when I start doing research. I start asking around. I talked to dudes like, oh, you don't know who this guy is? Let me tell you about him. Let me tell you about Wally. You might want to Google this name. Might want to Google this, Google that. He said, don't tell nobody I told you that, because he was in the family. And I looked him up. I found out this dude murdered and raped 3 women. 2 of them died. 1 of them survived, but her eyes were detached. She couldn't pick them out in a lineup. He'd already done 20 years for rape some other girl. And then we find him on my back porch. He's on the lanai looking through my kitchen window. And when I'm researching him, I find out who his father is. I'm like, dang, I can't live here. I'm going to end up killing somebody. If I find that dude on my porch, it's over. It's a wrap. So we moved. We immediately moved. They let us out of our lease because they understood. They're like, okay, because I was going to start some drama. And we moved to Culiacán. And while I'm in Culiacán, I started meeting people because Culiacán's an old neighborhood. I was right down the street from Coach Perry, where everybody would work out. And then that's when John's car is found in Culiacán. Yeah, these are wild times. Cam says, I bet those NFL brothers party into this verdict tonight. Yeah. Remember, they didn't want to testify, so he didn't get in trouble for that. Dude just left. Rose says, so smart, you really can't even trust your coworkers at that point. Well, I had a small circle. That's not good for you in terms of promotion. You want to be somebody everybody likes. But I don't know anybody. You know what I mean? I'm just some Holly from Detroit. I found some good Hawaiian bros that took care of me. And so that was my circle. Shout out to Moku, my brother. And I had classmates that set me straight early, you know. Told me the stories, let me know who was who, what was what. I remember being on traffic stops with a dude who was like, bro, you know who this guy is? Thank God I didn't. You know what I mean? Can you imagine you grew up in the islands your whole life, you know Uncle so-and-so, right? Like if you grew up in Hawaii, you knew Laramie. There's a stigma that comes with that. You pull over Laramie, you think to yourself, what am I doing? But I didn't know these people. So I didn't have that stigma. You know, you pull over Uncle so-and-so, Uncle Kimo, who's always there for you and always gave your family money when you needed it, when you were struggling, having hard times, and he was always there, right? You love that guy. He took care of you, took care of your mom. He's your uncle. You didn't pick your uncles. You know what I mean? It's just, that's such a gray area. And of course, you don't know what he did. You hear rumors, but he's like, yo, Uncle, like Johnny Boy? Johnny Boy couldn't have done that. I know Johnny Boy. We go way back. We went to St. Louis together. I know Johnny Boy. Johnny Boy, he would never do something like that. But there's this duality. People got two sides to them. There's that saying, nothing good happens after midnight. And you can have a dude who's a good husband or good dad during the day, works hard, does his thing, and at night, right? He's trying to let loose. He's straight all week, but he wants to go holo on the weekend. And now, you know, he hang with some dudes. Dude, it's too easy. It's just too easy. So my heart goes out to Hawaii. Such a good place. The aloha culture, the ohana culture. Man, the world needs more of that. But we'll never get away with the fact that I think that the heart of man is evil. And we just got to be close enough to call out the people we love. That's what I love about Hawaii. The aunties would correct my children. And in mainland culture, that's not typically allowed. It's like overreaching if you correct somebody else's child. But in Hawaii, my kids' aunties and uncles would correct them. And I loved it. But it's different out here on the mainland. It's wild. Rose says, that's how I felt when I found out who Mike's brother was. Bro was my best tipper when I worked at the Times coffee shop. Yep. See what I mean? If you look like, think about the biggest drug dealers the world's ever seen. Pablo Escobar. There are entire hoods that he built. Free housing for families that the government didn't care about. They never helped them. He took care of his neighborhood. Right? Look at the favelas in Brazil. There's some rich drug dealer behind building those. Look at Colombia. Same thing. Like Mike Miske, he took care of people and they felt a loyalty to him. And if you feel like that's your way to the top, especially your 18, 19, 20-year-old kid with a big head, you think you all that, when it really wasn't you. Everywhere you go, you make big body, but it's because Mike Miske. It's because the name that you were rolling with. And that's why this is a conspiracy. That's why this is an enterprise. Because they're finally punishing them for the power that they wielded, the name that they threw around, that Mike Miske name that sent chills down the spines of the victims, of the people that he was extorting, the people that he was robbing, the people that he was hunting. Think about that tax guy or that attorney. Remember that accountant? There was obviously some shady stuff going down with that accountant. But they kidnapped that dude. They put him in the trunk, drove him around town, beat him the whole time, put him in the back seat, beat him up, told him they were going to kill him, drove him around. He said, I ain't got the money you want from me. It was like 50 grand or something wild. I forget what it was. And he's basically just some old Japanese guy. I don't remember his name or anything, but they just beat him up, terrorized him, tortured him all night. We didn't even hear about this. It didn't even make the news when it happened. All of a sudden, this dude who's been tortured, living in fear for the last 4 years. Now look, now he finally going to get his redemption. But his name won't even be named in here. He got 13 counts, this dude got. So all counts. Murder and racketeering. Man. And listen, I'm in the mainland. This should be all over the place. It should. But it's not. This is just local right now. All right, this is what they got him on. Conspiracy to commit murder for hire, kidnapping, attempted murder, obstruction of justice, and conspiracy to use a chemical weapon. Okay, so conspiracy to commit murder for hire, that's going to be John Frazier, and you got those other dudes from the union, right? Then you got kidnapping. That's that accountant, and I don't know if and probably John Frazier. Attempted murder. Who was attempted murder? Because that has nothing to do with Cowboy. Pobo says, so this case is closed? Yep. Case is closed. Now, that doesn't mean the case is closed from an investigative perspective. It could just mean, it obviously means this is closed. But I think a big question here is what else is going to come out of this? And I'm hoping that we're going to find out more information and more cases are going to come up on other people as well. You guys, there are people out there walking around right now that are responsible for John's death, who set him up dudes who are not arrested right now, people in your neighborhood who set John up, who had a part in it, who told Mike where he was, who helped, keep him in one place or another. I don't know what his sentencing is at this point. We'll find out in a little bit. They'll probably tell us in the next couple weeks. But I just think that this could be something for the next 10 years. Think about it. Cam says, thank you for the work you did on this case, Doug. Please tell your wife, Nurses Rock. I will, Cam. Thank you. Thanks for being a part. Thanks for being here. So, you guys, I'll keep you up to date when I find out more. I'm sure there'll be more of these, but as of right now, Miske's found guilty. He will appeal in another year. And then he'll try to, after appellate court, he'll probably go to one more time, if I had to guess. But yeah, I can't even believe it. Well, that's it, you guys. It's been an hour and a half. It's been 4 years and 2 days from the time he was arrested. From the time I did my first video about his arrest on the day he was arrested. Thank you for being with us this whole time. For the last 4 years. It's been an honor and a privilege, and I appreciate you guys. You guys are awesome. So, mahalos for all the support. And until the next time, aloha.
Soy hardcore, yo le llego y tu mierda alimenta mi ego. De la calle, como tego, paso firme, paso ciego, yeah. You already know what I mean. Soy una historia sin fin, yeah. Aquella tiene su kine que nació con el bling. La fama, me rebrillan como la cubana, chama. Me quieren pero en su cama, que drama. Todos los fines de semana la dejo pero bien sana. Como salida del sauna, húmeda como la fauna. Ya no va, si no di, no se da. Y tú besando el asfalto, ya no va, si no di, no se da. Alaca como as, para los herbas. Es que pa' ti no hay, si no eres de aquí, no te quieren nada. Pero cuando entono la tonalidad, me luce bien lunar. No te quedan a ti, son wannabe, lo que eres así, no es real. Alaca como as, para los herbas. Es que pa' ti no hay, si no eres de aquí, no te quieren nada. Pero cuando entono la tonalidad, me luce bien lunar. No te quedan a ti, son wannabe, lo que eres así, no es real G.